the beginning of most yoga classes, you'll start with a centering. A centering is just taking a couple minutes to let go of any stress, any problems, anything that happened earlier in the day. It's a moment to clear your mind and begin to focus on your breath. This could be done laying down or standing up, but most often it's done seated. The back should be nice and tall, the head slightly back, and the collarbones broad. You can rest your hands on your thighs. You'll close your eyes and begin to tune into the quality of your breath. You'll feel your stomach move in and out as you make your inhales and exhales longer. Your instructor may ask you to set an intention for class. An intention is just something you'll focus on for the duration of the practice. It could be something like trying your best at a pose you've been working on, or a promise to yourself to stay present throughout the class. The first pose I'd like to talk about is balasana, child's pose. It's important that beginners know that at any point in any class, you should be able to come down to child's pose for a rest. Child's pose gently stretches the hips, thighs, and ankles, and it calms the brain and helps to relieve stress and fatigue. You'll reach the sits bones back towards your feet, head is on the mat, arms extend in front of you. Alternatively, you can bring your hands by your feet, palms facing up towards the sky. The next pose I like to talk about is Tadasana. You'll come to the top of your mat, step your feet together, spread your toes wide, and set them down. Stand tall, roll your shoulders back, bring your hands slightly in front of the body, and bring your head slightly back. This is Tadasana, mountain pose, and it's at the beginning of each sun salutation. On the next inhale, raise the arms up overhead and look up. Exhale, swan dive forward, fingers in line with the toes. Bend the knees if you need to. Inhale, flat back, look ahead. Bring your hands to your shins if your fingers don't reach the floor. The next part of the sun salutation is Chaturanga. So you'll come into a plank pose. Wrists, elbows, and shoulders are in one line. Push into the thumbs and the first fingers especially to take the weight off the wrists. Big toe mounds are pushing into the mat and your butt is in line with the body. For beginners without a lot of upper body strength, the next part can be hard, so you can take the option to go down onto your knees. From here, keep your elbows in close to the body and lower down. Come all the way down, so your belly is on the mat, and then lift using your back muscles into cobra. When you gain the upper body strength, you can try it the regular way, which is to go from the plank pose that you started in, and then keep the elbows into the body as you lower down for Chaturanga. Inhale, roll over the toes, upward facing dog. Here the legs are off the mat. The only thing on the mat are the hands and the feet. The next part of the sun salutation is downward facing dog. So you'll roll over the toes and lift the hips. Push the mat away from you for long armpits and push especially into the thumb and first fingers. This will take the weight off the wrists. If the heels don't come down to the mat, that's okay, just bend your knees. The important part is having a flat back. Let your head go so there's no tension in the neck. And lift the kneecaps up so your legs are engaged. The next part of the sun salutation usually has a warrior or a high lunge involved. You'll go from downward dog and step one foot to the front of the mat. Use your core here and step with control. For high lunge, the front knee should be directly over or slightly behind the front ankle, not in front of the ankle. The back heel is high off the mat and you push out through the bottom of the back foot. Hips are facing forward and your hands can come up overhead or into the heart. Collarbones are broad and you look at one place in front of you. For Warrior One, you push into the outer edge of the back foot and the foot is at a 45-degree angle. The hips still stay forward and the front knee is directly over the ankle or slightly behind it. For Warrior Two, the outer edge of the back foot is parallel to the short end of the mat. Your hips are open here, facing the long side of the mat. You look out over your front middle finger, and then you'll come down and step back into Chaturanga, going through the vinyasa again. You can come down on your knees, inhale into Cobra, and exhale into Downward Facing Dog. You'll breathe here for a couple breaths, and you'll do the same thing on the other side. To finish the sun salutation, you'll hop or step to the front of the mat. Use your core if you hop. And you go out the same way you went in. Flat back, hands can be at the shins, then chin to shins, and then inhale, arms up overhead, and exhale, arms down by your side in Tadasana. The next part of the class will usually have a standing series with some balancing poses like tree pose. For balancing poses, you should find a dristi. That's a place that you're going to look and focus all of your energy on. Keep the face calm and relaxed. Bring the foot into the upper thigh for tree pose. The hands can be anywhere, at your heart, out to the side, over your head, or at your waist. Just keep looking at that one place, that dristi. Some yoga classes will go from tree pose into toe stand. For toe stand, you'll bring the foot into the hip crease. You can choose to stay here if that's enough of a challenge for you. If it's too much, you can go back to tree pose. You'll find a new dristi here. It'll be out in front of you, but down towards the ground. Bring your hands down and then come to sit on your calf. You'll still keep your eyes focused on that one dristi, the new dristi, and then bring the hands into the heart. When you're ready, come out the same way you went in. Walk the feet out, and you'll go over to the other side. You might find that one side is more difficult than the other. After the standing and balancing series, you'll go into seated positions. You'll do a half vinyasa from the top of your mat. So it's just the beginning of a sun salutation. It'll be the last one of the class usually, so make it your best one. From downward facing dog, you'll step or hop up to the front of the mat, and then come to a seated position. For seated postures, you always want to remove the flesh from underneath your sits bones. This connects the sits bones to the ground so that you can get a little further in your stretches. When the legs are in front of you, like in Paschimottanasana, seated forward fold, flex the feet. You can use a strap if you like, but don't put both sides of the strap in one hand like this. You want to have one side in each hand. Tilt your pelvis forward. Sit nice and tall first, and then come forward. It's not about how close to the knees you can get. It's about lengthening up through the spine, breathing into the backs of the legs, and coming forward just a little bit on each exhale. The elbows always bend out to the side. If you don't have a strap, you can grab hold of wherever your hands come, whether it's the shins or the big toes, up to you. When you're ready to come out of it, extend the arms for a flat back and then release the posture. Another posture you might do is seated spinal twist. The left leg will bend. The right foot will come to the outside of the left leg and the right hand will push into the mat. Inhale, left arm up overhead and bring the elbow to the outside of the right knee. The twist is initiated from the navel. So you look over your right shoulder, but it shouldn't hurt at all. Collarbones are broad. Spine stays tall. When you're ready to release, look ahead and then come out. Then you'll go over to the other side. The next part of the yoga class will be supine positions, or positions on your back. You might do shoulder stand here. You'll support yourself on the low back with your hands. Feet are reaching up to the sky, or you can do whatever you'd like with the legs. You can cross them, you can do splits, you can bring the bottoms of the feet together. Whatever you do, it shouldn't hurt at all. You should feel no tension or stress in the neck or shoulder area. Do not turn your head when you're in this position. Often instructors will have you go from shoulder stand to plow pose, which is where you bring your feet overhead and the toes touch the floor. When you're ready to come out, roll down with control. From here, you might come into a supine spinal twist. Your arms will come out to the side, and you'll roll your legs over to one side. Look out over the shoulder of the opposite side that your legs are on. Sometimes this is intense on the shoulders. If this happens to you, just bring your hand in towards your waist. The last part of the yoga class will be Savasana, corpse pose. The legs are mat distance apart and the arms are spread wide. You'll close your eyes here and finally let go of the breath, beginning to breathe naturally. This is often one of the most difficult poses for students. Because you're not physically doing anything, the mind tends to wander and start thinking about other things you have planned, things that happened earlier before the class. Try to let that go. When a thought comes, just push it away without giving it any attention. You can use a mantra here to help you, or if there's music, you can just focus on listening to the music. You'll stay here for about 5 or 10 minutes. When it's time to exit Shavasana, your instructor may tell you to roll over to the right side. We roll to the right because the heart is on the left side, so that would put less pressure and weight on the heart. You'll then come up to a comfortable seated position. You'll end the yoga practice the same way you started it, with a centering. Bring your hands into your heart. Take a moment to feel thankful for the practice, for your health, and you can seal the practice by bowing if you like.